After a day in which European leaders gave urgently needed solidarity and support on the world stage to President Volodymyr Zelensky after his extraordinary meeting in the Oval Office on Friday, he gave a wide-ranging press conference, his first public remarks really addressing what happened in the White House on Friday when he met President Trump and Vice President J.D. Vance. At first, he was asked if he thought he could salvage the relationship with the United States. Here's what he said.
As regards salvaging the relationship that you asked about, I think that our relationship will continue because this is more than relationships in one moment. We need to be open. Ukraine is not the largest country in the world. However, everyone can see how Ukraine is fighting for its independence and freedom. And we are grateful to the people of the United States.
He was then asked to react to some of the suggestions from Trump's inner circle that perhaps he needs to step aside if he can't fix his relationship with the US president. Here's how he tackled the question of his resignation.
If I am to be changed, and I'll hear, how can I put it, with what's happening with the support to change me, it will not be easy, because it is not enough to simply hold elections. You would need to prevent me from participating in the elections, and it will be a bit more difficult. So they'll have to negotiate with me, and I said that I'm exchanging it for NATO membership, and then it means that I've fulfilled my mission.
He also said he was willing to sign the rare earth minerals deal, even though we've heard from US Treasury Secretary Scott Bessent that it is at present not on the table. And also, too, he struck a tone which was frankly conciliatory for most of it. Asked, though, directly by a reporter if he would apologise to President Trump, he didn't take that opportunity and instead gave an answer about Ukraine's dead and its suffering and how, in response to suggestions he doesn't want peace, he said he would love the war to stop, not just today, but have never have started in the first place.
CNN's Claire Sebastian is following developments. She joins us now live from London. Good morning to you, Claire. So what more can you tell us about or what came out of this summit and where do things go from here?
Well, look, I think it was very clear, Rosemary, that the summit needed to be more than about nice words. There needed to be an actual action that came out of this. So there you see this plan that's starting to take shape, perhaps led by the UK and France, to quote the British Prime Minister, to stop the fighting. We need to see a little bit more meat on the bones of that yet. What we know so far is only what's been reported in Le Figaro, which is that it could include this month-long truce, which would involve, as an initial phase, merely sort of the war in the air, at sea, and then to stop attacks on critical energy infrastructure, moving later to the issue of troops on the ground and on the front line. So that's what we know so far. I think there were two key audiences that Europe was trying to balance here. Number one, of course, Ukraine, to try to strengthen their hand, make sure that they were firmly at the center of this process, to try to build them back up so that they could build back ties with the US after that catastrophic meeting in the Oval Office on Friday. I think to an extent that succeeded. Certainly was helpful that President Zelensky met with the King as well on Sunday, perhaps easing some of the political pressure that the UK Prime Minister Keir Starmer has felt after offering President Trump that second state visit with the King. I think the second audience clearly is the US. It is very clear, listening to the British Prime Minister Keir Starmer, that their pre-approval for this plan was sought. He spoke to President Trump on Friday night, he said, and on Saturday night. A lot of pre-work was done before the leaders met in London on Sunday, and so I think President Trump was party to that. And I think you do see in this idea of a truce perhaps some nod to the sort of the actions that President Trump has spoken about. He has been pretty clear that he didn't want to talk about security guarantees before there was a ceasefire. So the idea of a truce perhaps gets closer to that. But look, the Secretary of State, Marco Rubio, was on ABC on Sunday. He said not a lot about this plan. He said he'd spoken to the British and French foreign ministers on Saturday, but he seemed to suggest that not much had changed in the US position.
There's some really significant breaking news to tell you about on the FBI front. The head of the New York field office, James Dennehy, has retired under intense pressure. He had tangled with the Trump administration over their demand that the names of all FBI agents who worked on or touched any January 6 cases be handed over. In a letter to staff earlier this month that we covered on this program, Dennehy had written this, quote, "Today we find ourselves in the middle of a battle of our own, as good people are being walked out of the FBI and others are being targeted because they did their jobs in accordance with the law and FBI policy." He added this, quote, "Time for me to dig in," end quote. That list of names was eventually handed over. Two sources tell NBC News that Dennehy was given a choice to retire or be fired, and he chose to retire earlier today. Let's bring into our coverage former top official, the Department of Justice, former FBI General Counsel, MSNBC legal analyst Andrew Weissman, also joining us at the table, the co-founder and CEO of Rappler, the leading digital media and news organization in the Philippines, the winner of the Nobel Peace Prize in 2021, the author of, quote, "How to Stand Up to a Dictator, The Fight for Our Future." Maria Ressa is back. She's also a board member of the Committee to Protect Journalists. Someone who's talked us through these times, and we're gonna get to the journalism front, but we start here at the FBI. A big blow.
Big blow. This is somebody who, just like we saw in the prosecutor's office in New York, the prosecutor's office in Main Justice, the prosecutor's office in D.C., it's useful to remember, this sort of resistance started at the FBI. And this is sort of the next rung below the director and the deputy director. All of the assistant directors, the heads of the field offices, of which this fellow is the largest field office in the Bureau. This is sort of the crown jewel. I say that not just as a native New Yorker. I mean, it really has the most people, has the most work. It is the core of the terrorism program, is here. And this is somebody who basically had to be forced out by the Trump administration because he was, by all accounts, saying, you know what, I was trained to believe in facts and law. So it's, again, another sign of where we are. It's really important to see this as part of that larger story as to what's going on in the administration writ large, but it's certainly within the Department of Justice. I cannot stress to you, Nicole, how unusual this is. The only other time I can think of anyone of note leaving the department because of being asked to do something that they viewed as against the law or just not supported by the facts was in the first Trump administration. But that was a small group of people. This is full bore. And to me, that is just exactly representative of the difference between where we were in Trump 1.0 and where we are now.
And what would Kash Patel and Dan Bongino want that Dennehy couldn't have given them if he'd run that office?
Somebody who was going to be fact-based and law-based and was saying that out loud. Remember, this is exactly what Denise Chung, the head of the criminal division, was saying to her boss and to the Deputy Attorney General's office, which was the facts do not support it and the law does not support it. And what's remarkable is that is a firing offense. Just to remember what Mr. Dennehy, Special Agent Dennehy's position was, it was that there is nothing wrong with having worked on the investigation of people who participated in the January 6th insurrection. We all saw that. It's worth noting, this isn't misconduct. It would be a dereliction of duty not to have done those cases. And the idea, just remember, this is a public servant with a long career, not just at the FBI, but in the military, who is sitting there saying, I can't stomach this. I mean, it's remarkable.
But he didn't. They're printing, This is real news, real breaking news in the making. When it makes me stammer, I can see the story coming out the printer. He's putting out publicly that he was forced out. I want to read to you from his resignation message. Eddie, you have that? Thank you. This is how it happens. Sorry, not so glamorous. In his retirement message to colleagues, former head of the FBI New York field office says he was forced out. Quote, I've been told many times in my life, when you find yourself in a hole, sometimes it's best to quit digging. Screw that. I will never stop defending this joint. Full message, all. Quote, late Friday, I was informed that I needed to put my retirement papers in today, which I just did. I was not given a reason for this decision. Regardless, I apologize to all of you for not being able to fulfill my commitment to you to serve as ADICNY. What's that?
Assistant Director in Charge. They're one of 3 people, the largest field offices in the country, New York, Washington, D.C., and Los Angeles. I can't stress enough how big and important a job is. But for sort of the director and the deputy director, I mean, this is the most important position in the department.
Let me read his message in full then. As I leave today, I have an immense feeling of pride to have represented an office of professionals who will always do the right thing for the right reasons, who will always seek the truth while upholding the rule of law, who will always follow the facts no matter where they lead and be unapologetic about it, who will never bend, break, falter, or quit on your integrity, who will always handle cases and evidence with an overabundance of caution and care for the innocent, the victims, and the process first, and who will always remain independent. With that, here is my final top 10 list. Top 10 things I'll miss about the FBI. The commute to work, not. The investigations, doesn't matter what squad you are on, the work is the best in the world. The intensity. You have to be in it to realize what I mean. But we all know how significant what we do is. The FBI brand. Do not fret. Those 3 letters still mean something. And there's only a select group of folks in this world, past and present, who can say they're with the FBI. Be proud of that. The camaraderie within our own Bureau family and with all law enforcement, local, state, federal, and international. There is no better fraternity in the world. The opportunity to put on a suit and tie to conduct interviews in the morning, throw on some street clothes to conduct surveillance in the afternoon, debrief a sensitive source at a safe house overnight, and then get up early for a SWAT arrest the next morning. Then rinse and repeat. The badge, what it took to earn it and what it means to carry it.
Trump's conduct at the FBI, ironically, is helping Zelensky because it demonstrates that all the claims Trump makes about Ukraine being a sick society, that Zelensky is a dictator, that what he's trying to say is that they have no freedom of expression in society. He controls everything from his central office, and there's no dissenting voices in Ukraine, and so therefore he can't speak for the Ukrainian people. Actually, Donald Trump can. Well, Trump's conduct at the FBI is proof positive that Trump has no leg to stand on. And so in a very silver lining way, a very ironic way, Trump's heavy-handedness at the FBI just handed Zelensky a big victory. Because what it's done is it's showcased that in many ways Donald Trump is projecting. He projects with his political rivals domestically all the time. We know this, right? He accuses Joe Biden of being senile because he has long-standing, and according to at least some doctors, very credible mental health decline claims against him. He accuses other people of being sickos when he is a sicko. He includes other people of misrepresenting things when he does that. And he's accusing Zelensky of weaponizing the police state in Ukraine against Ukrainians when that's what he's doing in the United States right now to Americans. And so Zelensky is able to demonstrate that Donald Trump is much more like the dictator than he is.